We need professional advice from lots of angles. A good relationship with the solicitor really does count for something as a business develops and grows over that long period.
Using the solicitor has changed my life completely, and they were a big part of my life for a long time and will be with me for the rest of my life because of how they've improved it.
Working with a solicitor has given me advice that I can rely on. It means I can get on and do what I'm good at, which is in this case cooking.
Divorce process is a very emotional time. He knew exactly what to do or what to say. It was perfect for what we needed, so I can't recommend it any more highly.
Wisdom Dairy is very much a family business. We employ about 150 people, supplying a fabulous product all over the southwest and working with my two sons who are full-time in the business, which is what makes it really worthwhile to me.
As a firm, we've acted for Bill and his family for more than 30 years. And it's been very interesting seeing the traditional family farm develop and diversify into a very successful local business. As business grows and changes, so the legal requirements change, and that's where we fit in.
Well, as the business has developed, we've had to accumulate property, so there's been lots of land deals to do, and we've had to develop the land, and that's dealing with all sorts of queries with regard to other third parties who have got claims on that land, and legal advice is helpful. Then, of course, we've increased the number of employees, and all of those require professional relationships, so good legal advice is absolutely critical there. And add to that, we've got intellectual property with the building of the brand. The brand is everything to this business now, and we have to protect that legally. So a good relationship with the solicitor really does count for something as a business develops and grows over that long period.
We take a lot of care and attention in actually understanding clients' business. In this instance, I'm the main point of contact, so if someone at the dairy has a legal query, they phone me up, I can then put them in contact with the correct person at Stephen Scone in order that they can have the best and appropriate legal advice.
We need professional advice from lots of angles. When we need legal advice, we want it to be the very best. And the beauty of dealing with the solicitor is that you get the right legal advice, but with full indemnity cover as well. But the real test is when it goes wrong, and then you've got someone with you to sort out the mess, and then you find out that the relationship really matters.
We needed a solicitor as we decided to get divorced. When we chose a solicitor, I think we knew of Boys and Morn, and that we knew they had a good reputation through word of mouth. But so I actually went to their website and came up with the option of collaborative, as it was a way to move forward quickly and efficiently with minimal disruption to both of us.
Collaborative process has at its heart finding solutions that work best for the couple or the family as a whole. If there are children involved, it puts a focus on the needs and the welfare of the children. The process is used by lawyers who are specifically trained in dealing with these issues in an amicable way, in a conciliatory way, in a way that doesn't make the situation worse. Sandra is very easy to get on with, and although we were dealing with very serious things, we were able to have a laugh and develop a good solicitor-client relationship.
You can discuss with your solicitor what you are looking for, how long you want it to take, and because we had a fair idea between us, we were able to get it done very quickly with no trouble whatsoever.
Collaborative is a process that is for clients, not decisions made by or driven by lawyers. The collaborative process enabled us to deal with things very quickly, and much more quickly than we could have dealt with in any other process. In terms of cost, it would have been much more expensive had either of them gone to court.
Divorce process is a very emotional time, and I think you don't know what your emotions are going to be when you're discussing things, but I think it all went very smoothly. He knew exactly what to do or what to say to make things calmer if need be. It worked really, really well for us, and we are still amicable and friendly now. It was perfect for what we needed, so I mean, I can't recommend it any more highly to anyone else.
Zero is a renewable energy product supplier. It's a system integrator, so it puts packages together, systems together for the installer who go out and install that system for the end customer. We use legal advice to set up distribution agreements, supplier agreements, agreements for supplying installers as well, so all the product all the way through the supply chain, if you like, to help us manage the channel. We also license software to installers, so we use legal advice for setting up license agreements, terms and conditions on supply. We also use legal advice for protecting trademarks and brand names.
Our relationship with Zero is based on a single point of contact, which is myself, and a number of other key individuals within Stephen Scone who have a unique understanding of Zero's business. That means that if Zero need advice in any relation to whether it be intellectual property or another area of law, they can call on myself or one of my colleagues and ask direct questions, and they should be able to answer them straight away.
So Stephen Scone have been very useful generally with just general advice, not just providing legal documentation and contracts, etc., but also just advising us on day-to-day business agreements and that we're trying to reach with third parties.
One of the things that Stephen Scone do is spend a lot of time on site with their clients. And in the case of Zero, spending time on site means that we have a better understanding of how the business operates. Indeed, there are a number of companies with whom they interact constantly. So our understanding of how that interaction takes place means that when it comes to a phone call and there is a question to be asked, we can answer it.
So we use solicitors primarily because they give a different level of authoritative advice, essentially. So for difficult negotiations or difficult contracts, etc., we really need to get a legal perspective, essentially.
The Law Society provides a way for businesses and individuals to find a list of qualified solicitors in the UK, and by doing so they can be sure that the advice they're receiving is better than that if they went to a generic business advisor.
Working with Stephen Scone has been very valuable for our business, essentially, in setting up a lot of contracts very swiftly and effectively that have protected our interests and helped us to grow.
I needed the solicitor because when I was 18, I was in a car crash. I pulled out of a junction and I was hit by another car. My car caught fire and I was trapped inside. It resulted in 6 weeks in a coma and I think 3.5 months in hospital, and I lost my career that I just qualified in due to the damages from the burns and other injuries that I had. I remember coming round from the coma and watching telly, and there was an advert for a personal claim. I turned to my dad and said, "Does that mean that I have a personal claim?" So then he knew that we had to get legal advice.
Well, Lindsay was involved in obviously a serious accident, but it was very tricky in terms of liability. So when she came to us, I think her expectations were quite low.
They were checking every avenue to see where I had the case. Then they continued with things like accident reconstructions and going over all the statements.
Lindsay was fantastic. I must say she was probably the most inspiring client I've ever met, just because of her age and the injuries that she had, which were very, very significant. It took probably nearly 3 years to be able to actually come to an agreement with the defendants about liability, and then we issued court proceedings shortly after that.
They gave me all the financial help I needed. I had to go up to travel to London a lot. They sorted all the transport and covered everything for me. And then when I was struggling so bad financially, they managed to get me an interim payment to get me through till the case was settled.
I think the primary thing that we try and do is have really good client care with our clients, and just keeping the lines of communication open with her all the time, to make sure that she was happy with the process, because a lot of clients have never been through the process before and they're unsure as to how it works. And we were able to, with a couple of experts' reports, help to succeed in terms of liability and win a claim. Once we dealt with the fault of the incident, it was then a case of getting the right medical evidence to be able to then proceed to settle a case for a fairly substantial amount of compensation in the end. And I think one of the major advantages of dealing with a solicitor and going through a personal injury claim potentially is you are exposed to excellent experts in all fields, particularly medical experts, who are then able to provide excellent treatment to the client to get them in the best position they can to recover from whatever injuries they have suffered.
It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. They just make you feel really relaxed and like you can trust everything they're telling you to do. Using the solicitor has changed my life completely. It's an experience I will never forget. They were just amazing. They were a big part of my life for a long time and will be with me for the rest of my life because of how they've improved it.
I've been involved in cooking my whole adult life, and having had enough of the pretense and ceremony that goes along with what they call fine dining, I started looking for a pub and saw a few. This one came up pretty much on Newlyn Market, and I thought no one's cooking fish in Newlyn, so let's give it a go, and we've been going for almost 2 years now.
I've worked with Ben for about 10 years now. The work that I do with Ben is quite varied. It can be just about the acquisition of the business itself, but I can also provide assistance on employment and with contracts, relationships with some of his suppliers and customers and things like that. So it's a broad area of matters relating to personal and business matters.
Really, where Christian's been fantastic is certainly on the acquisition of the Tol Khan. I needed to do it quickly. We were approaching the summer season, I wanted to get in and get trading, and I dumped a great big lease on him, and he turned it around extremely quickly for me. It's great to know that Christian's there for whatever I need. I've only got to give him a call or send him an email, and I know he'll be back in touch quite quickly. I think the benefit of working with a solicitor with regards to legal matters, as opposed to other avenues that I might be able to go down, are that I have total confidence in Christian, and that I know that if he tells me something, I can rely on that, and I can go forward and get on with what I want to do.
The benefit of using a solicitor registered with the Law Society is that you know that they're going to be an individual that's done a huge amount of training to get that qualification. So it's not someone who's inexperienced. The additional aspects is that certain solicitors have additional status. They've done have extra accreditation in particular areas, and you know that you are working with someone who is a specialist in the field.
Working with a solicitor with regards to how that's improved my business potentially is just that I'm safe in the knowledge that I'm not going to get bitten. That solicitor has given me advice that I can rely on, that means I can get on and do what I'm good at, which is in this case cooking.
Sadly, my parents' health has declined considerably over the last couple of years. Well, my mother has dementia along with Parkinson's. My father has a lot of considerable physical health difficulties. The time came when I needed to seek lasting power of attorney to manage their affairs and help them.
When James came to me, he was in a bit of a difficult position because his parents needed his help. He'd heard about lasting powers of attorney but just didn't know enough about them, so he needed some professional help. James's parents had bought and sold houses through us and drafted wills with us before, so it was quite a long-standing relationship of maybe tens of years. They needed to know what his responsibilities would be as an attorney, what his duties would be, and his parents also wanted to know what kind of power he would have over their finances.
Monica was always very responsive to any calls or requests I made. She dealt with things very professionally, very sensitively. Got to say, Monica in particular had the people skills for the job.
You don't were never a dancer.
No, 2 flat feet, auntie.
Working with people, especially with mental capacity issues, it can be challenging, but the thing is that every day is different, and often at the beginning when people are first diagnosed they still have plenty of clarity and can make decisions, so it's just about empowering them and talking to them.
What was potentially a nightmare situation to try and deal with yourself was very easily accomplished without any stress due to Monica's handling of the processes.
If they didn't have a solicitor doing that for them, on their behalf, they could make mistakes. They could even have to pay fees again themselves if they did it wrong. So that's where you want a solicitor to help you out, really. Making a power of attorney is like taking out an insurance policy. You might never need it, but if you do need it, it can save a lot of trouble and heartache in the future.
Leave you feeling reassured and more than satisfied that you've got competent, brilliant people to deal with your affairs.
Alex had been involved in a car accident where he was stationary at a set of traffic lights and somebody had reversed into him. So he came in to see us, being a local client. He just popped in off the street. We explained to him what we could do. We had a face-to-face interview to get the proper instructions from him.
It was friendly and approachable and very professional, but instantly broke down that kind of solicitor non-solicitor barrier, and I liked it. Yeah.
Alex's case was difficult. The other side began to argue about various things, about the impact, about the position of the cars, about whether he could be injured, about the extent of his injuries. That meant at each stage we had to get new instructions. So with Alex being local and being able to pop in, it was a lot easier for us to get those instructions, to get them perfect, and then obviously then to combat any questions the other side had put forward. It also meant that our case was stronger, and when we did issue court proceedings, the other side then backed down.
My vehicle was repaired. It was repaired by a company that I chose rather than just whoever the insurance has got a deal with, which mattered to me because I knew the quality of the work was going to be good. There was a payment for compensation for the time and the aggravation that was caused, and it was settled. Although it was 9 months, it seemed to go quite quickly because there was very little stress on my half, because Paul dealt with everything. He had it all in hand. Yeah.
With Alex's case, we had to fight for him. We do have an interest. First off, we only get paid if we win, so we have to be interested from a business point of view, but also we're a local firm. We are situated on the high street. We only survive if we do good work for local people, so we have to fight for them. Also, we want to. We're part of the community. We're helping people.
Divorce is actually not a very easy process. Mentally, it's difficult to come to terms with. I needed somebody to give me good, sound advice.
He was going through a difficult time after a long marriage. I felt that collaborative was one which would be suitable to him. We explained the collaborative process to both of them, and they agreed that they would give it a try.
I chose this practice because I had every confidence that they would do the job professionally and that they could do it on a personal basis.
Having done family work for more than 20 years, I know the process. I know how difficult it can be for the clients, so I've done hundreds of matrimonial breakdowns, relationship breakdowns. Sadly for Steve, it was his first. And so he didn't know the process. He was emotionally involved. And the lawyer's job is to try and take some of the pressure off them, explain the process, and try and deal with it in the best way for them. You've got to pick and choose the ones which you think can be dealt with collaboratively, and then offer it to the client and see what they make of it.
From time to time, I would vent my feelings, and I'm afraid Colin got the brunt of that because he was the one who had to listen to me and then say, well, that's fine, Steve, you're right in what you're saying, but unfortunately that's not where the law would support you. There was an element of understanding, and he would give me sound professional advice. It was a good, positive relationship. I felt I could say things to him which I probably couldn't say to anybody else.
We'd managed to settle all financial issues, and it was done therefore over 4 meetings over several months rather than a court case which could take a year, 15 months to conclude, and I would say be at least 50% more expensive and possibly a lot more than that.
If I had done things my own way and I hadn't used a solicitor, the outcome would have been far more messy. But in real terms, it was probably as good as it could possibly be, the outcome.
We were looking for a solicitor because my elderly parents had been in their house for 50 odd years. Dad unfortunately was beginning to suffer from dementia, and they were looking to move into a purpose-built apartment.
I met Chris in my office. It was important to look at the items that would have an impact on the clients on their day-to-day living. So say, for example, service charges, the care component element. What we did was, when we got the contracts and the paperwork through, I checked everything thoroughly. The inquiries were raised, they went over to the seller solicitors, and throughout this I kept Chris and his sister Jane informed. You know, they were fully aware at all stages of everything that was happening as far as the transaction was concerned.
Working with Usha was great. Having the confidence of somebody who'd actually been through that process before, was able to provide advice and guidance, and had the expertise to know exactly what they were looking for in the different areas of the contract side of things.
When it came to the actual signing of the contracts, it was important though for Chris and his sister. They wanted the parents to be aware that there was actually this transition was going to take place, and what better scenario really to do it in than in the solicitor's office, but where they felt relaxed and comfortable. When you're moving house, you know, depending on the particular circumstances, it can be a hugely emotional experience. You know, people are attached and they're losing their family home. We're here to make that as easy as possible for them. It's important for people, the public, to use a solicitor because they will be offered a level of expertise, a very high level of expertise that they simply won't be able to cover themselves in many circumstances, particularly in property matters, for example, where you're reading old documents, leases, for example. It's very easy to miss something. If you employ a solicitor, they will cover everything. They will ensure that they are fully protected and that there are no issues at a later stage, and there's nothing that they have to contend with, or any nasty surprises.
It was a very friendly approach, a very hands-on approach in many respects, and very open and transparent, but at the same time professional. And I think that's what certainly I'm looking for.